So this is just recording.
Now it's recording.
Oh, okay. And then you're just going to put this on.
However we need to put it on. Whatever we want to put it on.
Okay, I didn't know it was live.
Oh, it's live. It's live, my friend.
Okay.
So, well, this is going to be fun, man. We've been talking about doing this for a while, so.
Yeah. I don't know. So, I guess let's just talk about.
Well, here, actually, let's restart that. We need to get you in the frame. So, at least, okay. Oh. Note to self, we're black. Okay. Okay.
My poor emblem. It's like.
There we are. Look at
Okay,
that.
can you hear me now? Everybody?
there we
Okay,
go.
there we go. All right.
So yeah, so this is something we've been wanting to do for a hot minute. This is just something I think we're just going to do that's just going to be pretty raw and organic, just like we are, you know. So I don't know. We just kind of ran with this idea. We're just going to really wing it, kind of like what we're best at doing.
Fair enough.
But plenty of good information and good stories that's going to come on this podcast.
Yeah, so I guess we'll just kind of start off with I guess just general market concepts, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, right now we've got about, give or take a little bit. I didn't check the stats exactly this morning, but it's, say it's 900 houses, right? 900,000, something like that, houses, and there's not a whole lot moving super fast, if you will. Now, with that being said, it doesn't mean the market's bad. It's actually just a really balanced and neutral market to be real.
Yeah.
I mean, because if you look back, if you go back, let's say 4, 5, 6, whatever years ago, that was the average. I mean, the average day on market was right around call it 60 days.
Sure.
Right, 60 to 90, somewhere in there. It was what's your average, right? Which is kind of where we're at now.
Okay.
You have some sellers who are offering concessions, some guys aren't. Builders are generally are offering more of a concession,
Sure.
or they're being a little more willing to accept an offer that's asking for some concessions. I should put it that way.
Right.
The interest rates really aren't bad. Everybody wants to say the interest, but I think I hear more realtors saying that the interest rate is bad than I have honestly clients. Because every time I have somebody comes in, say an open house, or a client somebody refers me to, and we start having a conversation,
Right.
They'll say at one time, "Oh, it's high interest rates," and it's a very quick rebuttal for me in a sense of, and it's not a sales pitch by any means, but it's literally, if you just look at the past 10 years, right? Because this is where you really need to grab data from. If you added the COVID years when it got really crazy and everybody's getting like a negative 100% interest rate, your average interest rate is they're going to sell you 7.5% to 8%,
Sure.
right?
Right.
Well, if you took out those 2 years or 3 years of COVID madness, that equation really goes back to about 9.5%.
Yeah.
So
and it's just one of those things where at this point, and again, no matter what you or I say, it's always going to come off as salesy. As personable as you and I try to be, and I think we really are. But no matter what, there's always that seed in the back of somebody's head that you guys just want us to buy a home so you guys can get paid. But it's not even like that, right? It's just and the reason why you and I love each other so much is because we like to get facts, at the end of the day. And I truthfully think that, when the market shifts, the focus has to shift. Mm-hmm. Obviously, everybody and their mom wanted the 2 and 3%, so there was no talk about the rate. Nobody cared. Even if you got a 3% from one company versus maybe a 2.5%, nobody really shopped because everybody's like, oh, hey, it's a low enough rate for me.
Yeah.
Right? But now, everybody's shifted their focus to, I'm still hung up on the rate, right? But at this point, it's more so, what can you afford? And your affordability aspect. Just because, yes, it is double what it used to be.
Yeah.
Almost triple.
Yeah.
But the problem is, like, those people that bought when the rates were in 2s and 3s, you and I talk about it all the time, they pay for the 2s and 3s. Mm-hmm. The going in over asking, no closing costs paid.
Valid, 100% valid, man. Because and we've had this conversation with I can't tell you honestly how many people.
Right.
It's everybody's like, oh, I just want to wait till the rates drop down. Right. We have this conversation at least once a week with somebody, with a client we have. and they're like, well, we want to wait till the rates drop. I get your idea or your concept of why you're saying that.
Right.
What you're not understanding, not you, but the buyers, what they're not understanding is when the rates drop, that's what everybody's waiting for, is the rates to drop.
Yep.
Which means it's going to cause for better lack of terms, it's going to cause a feeding frenzy.
Yep.
And so you're going to have, that's when the multiple offers start. That's when the seller concessions go away.
Correct.
That's when the over asking starts happening again.
Right.
So if you're gonna base your entire concept off, I'm gonna wait till this market crashes, which I don't really think there's a crash coming. I could be wrong. I don't know, but I just don't see that happening. But even with that, it's I'm gonna wait till the rates drop. Okay, well what's gonna guarantee the rates drop?
Right.
Okay, freaking China invades tomorrow. Guess what's gonna happen to your rates? They're going up, right?
Yeah.
If whatever crazy thing happens tomorrow, a meteor hits the freaking earth. Who knows? Like your rates are going up. Like that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like there is no like, oh, well, when the rates drop. Okay, well that's not a thing.
Right. Well, and I mean, as loan officers, we always kind of try to talk in generality when it comes to rates because it just shifts so much. And, I always tell people, it's like, hey, here's what the projection is, right? And again, I always tell people there's no promises. There's never a guarantee. I was like, it's a projection. And I was like, I could walk in tomorrow. The rates could be falling like crazy. And maybe hypothetically, we're back in the 2s and 3s. Do I think that's, possible? Most likely not.
No.
But do I see maybe rates favoring the borrower at some point? Sure.
I mean, I don't think 4.5.
No,
is far out. I think that's 100% realistic in the next 6-8 months. I don't see that being an unrealistic concept.
Yeah, and but that's the thing. And again, when people talk about waiting, and again, maybe they want to try to find that deal or house prices come down, but I'm like, dude, like the market doesn't slow down for you, unfortunately. And I get it all the time on Facebook. People like to interact in certain kind of things where they're like, well, you don't understand how hard it is to get a home. And I'm like, homie, yes, I do, because like I am pre-approving these people. I have to have these hard conversations, and I get it, man. Like I promise you, like when people are paying like $1,500 for rent, and they're like, why can't I get approved for a $1,500 mortgage? And I'm like, trust me, I get it. Like to me, like me looking at somebody like that, I'm like, it makes a lot of sense. But here's kind of the kicker to it: when you're renting, you're not borrowing money. When it comes to borrowing money, obviously, there's that extra barrier you have to understand.
So I think I had this conversation with a lady. It was a Friday,
right?
So Friday, I had this conversation a lot with people, but Friday, for instance, there was a lady that I've been talking to for quite a while. She just re-signed another year, I think a year-long lease, and then she's probably going to be moving in with her daughter at some point.
Okay.
Just that's what they're going to do, and then tell her lease is up or whatever, and then she's going to possibly look for a house. Not a problem.
Yep.
You do what you're comfortable doing. But the conversation I had with her, I was like, so why? I was like, and it's not a push of trying to get her to buy something. That's not what I was like. I'm just trying to understand. I'm trying to understand the logic. I'm trying to understand the thought process. Right. And what I think is right for you may not be right for you. I mean, right?
It's subjective.
It's completely up to you, right?
Yep.
So the reality is this, right? So when I talked to her on Friday, we were talking about, she's like, oh, I just don't know the interest rates. I'm like, yeah, but if you're going to rent a place, it's 100% interest. If you want to solely base your art, and this is again, it's not like a sales pitch. I'm just here to kind of flip it a little bit for you, so you can kind of see a different lens.
Sure.
Because a lot of people get stuck with social media and the news and all these things, and they just get very distracted and they get tunnel vision on a certain way of thinking.
Correct.
So, and it's not that my way is right and your way is wrong, or vice versa. It's just I'm just trying to give you a different perspective. Yep. So I told her, I was like, so if you think about renting is 100% interest 100%. with no gain. There's no appreciation gain there.
Yep.
And she's like, that's a pretty good. Literally, she's like, that's a good statement. Right. And I was like, so now let me tell you this too. So, she's like, well, the house prices are just so high. I just would really like house prices to come back down. And I was like, honey, house prices don't. Generally speaking,
right?
Okay, house prices do not go down. Like that's not
right.
That's not a thing, right? So
well, I will say, because I know some people are going to try to correct you and all that. Oh, well, the house right down the road just dropped $20,000 or $50,000, but again, a lot of people like to fixate on that instead of just realizing the bigger picture, right? Because it's regional, it's area specific. It happens. Like that's real estate in general. But you can't say just because that one particular property is going to speak for the national average, right? Like,
yes,
and it's not a thing. And just because, yes, the market is a little funky at the moment, when the rates do drop, understand the supply is actually relatively low compared to what we had in 2008, 2007, when there was like a bajillion homes for sale.
Yeah.
And like literally,
well even high teens, 2000 high teens, right? So we were talking. I think our average, I want to say we were around 12, let's say 12 to 1,400 homes on the market, and we were closing at roughly about, I would say, somewhere around 300 a week.
Sure.
And so it was just this constant turnover thing.
Right.
So if you kind of think about that market average,
right?
Well, but no, and like what you're saying with the market being specific, and I break our Montgomery market down almost into 7 different sections.
Right. Okay.
And I tell people, I was like it literally just depends on where you live. So kind of back what I was saying is, with the house prices don't generally, going down is not really a thing. Now, yes, the house is going to be worth what somebody's going to pay for it. I'm not arguing that. I'm arguing 2 separate concepts. One is appraised value. Right?
Yep.
Your appraised value. The other one is this thing called appreciation. So depending on where you are in Clarksville, whether you're Exit 1, Exit 11, right, South Side, and whatever else, your appreciation rate is somewhere between 3 and 5% per year.
Yep.
So that's what I mean by house prices don't go down. So if house prices went down, we'd still be paying, or they fluctuate, they go up for a little bit and then they come back down. We'd still be paying the same house for prices we did in 1920. No, but that's serious. Like,
true.
How? Because if you want to justify that argument, then why am I paying so much?
Well, but I mean, it's the same thing with even vehicles, though. You know, people talk about vehicles.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, dude. I mean, that's the perfect examples. You know, we talk about, people want to compare, like, you know, the 2008 crash and it's going to happen. But I'm like, well, you know, again, unfortunately, kind of going back to that topic is, yes, homes are sitting a little bit longer, but it doesn't mean that we have enough supply as a whole nationwide to support the amount of buyers that when the market does drop, and when I mean by market, by the rates, when they do drop, you got to think, man, like, people and their freaking moms are going to come out of the freaking woodworks.
Well, think about. So for us, for our market here, right? When COVID became a full swing. So to kind of put a full picture of the phase lines, if you will, of COVID, right? So we had Tennessee, and I'm just speaking of Montgomery County and in Tennessee, right? We did this 15 days for the lockdown stuff, right?
Yep.
So we did that. I sold like 12 homes in the first 2 weeks, and just by people calling me, and we're like, I hate my house, I'm stuck in it, don't like it no more, and I want to sell it. Okay. So when we get unlockdown, it was listing agreements, and we start searching for homes, right? Well, it wasn't just me; it was everybody. Everybody had that going on. Right. So then you had this 1-for-1 swap. So all these people with existing houses wanted new construction houses, and then people, you know, they just want to upgrade or whatever else. And then, so that happened. And then right around that same time that was happening, Nashville, their dudes down there raised the taxes by like 30% or something crazy.
Yeah, and that big
so that caused us like giant 360 of exodus, basically, of Nashville. So people were blasting out of there. So then we're getting, so it used to be, I would say, let's say I don't know, let's say 15%, maybe 20% of the business, mainly exit 11 and 8, was the Nashville guys, right? Well, that exploded that number to almost probably 50% or more, right? Because they're moving up here because it's actually cheaper to buy a master house here and then commute down to where they're at.
Yep.
So that happened. And then right about that happening was about the same time that 2 things happened at once. One, the rates dropped. The first big time. Boom, they dropped down to like 3% flat or whatever it was the first real time. And then that caused this massive feeding frenzy where everybody was like buying and selling. And then at the same token, some dude somewhere wrote the magical statement. He wrote in a magazine that went into freaking outer space or something and wrote, Clarksville, Tennessee is the best place to live in the entire universe. So everybody and their mother and their freaking alien cousins came from here to here and started buying up places like it's going out of style. And so and then the rates dropped again right after that.
Yeah.
So, and then that sustained that way for almost 2.5 years. Like, it was madness.
A lot longer than it should have. And, you know, to be fair, it's just one of those things where the people who are just waiting for that, or even has a small glimpse of that happening, it's more likely not going to happen in our lifetime. We'll probably never see it. It was historic lows. If we see it again, I mean, that's freaking awesome. But I mean, again, the odds are just not in our favor.
Well, but you got to think too. So why? So the big question, everybody's like, well, why is it historic lows? Well, you got to understand, right? So it wasn't necessarily, it was not necessarily because the government was trying to help you out to buy a house. Got news for you. If it's government and my best interest, they don't actually meet ever.
They need to make money.
Yeah, they want to make money. So what it was is they lowered these interest rates so actually hedge corporations and all these other entities could buy, and investment groups could buy all these freaking houses, all these properties. That's why it got so low, is because they were able to buy all these investments and all these homes to where they can rent them out to you, because that's what it was. So in order to make that work, the interest rates had to be lower. Sure. Now, there's articles you can read through, I think Realtor.com did it. A couple other places there's a few other places out there had the articles about what actually happened.
Right.
And I want to say, don't 100% quote me, but I want to say it was something to the point of, it was like 43% or something like that, of all units sold during that time was actually bought by a entity. So a corporation, or something that, right. So you're talking 47%, or excuse me, 47 to 53% of the houses, whatever it was. There's a gap in there because some people didn't buy, but there was whatever that other percentage. I mean, you're talking that's insane. That's call it 50-50 just down the middle.
Right.
Like half of them were bought by a freaking company. That's crazy to me.
Yeah. Well, but and again, that's just why a lot of people. Talk about. That's why we kind of push away from the rate, because again, it goes for agents too, man. The agents who onboarded during the whole COVID era, you didn't really have to do much, man. Even as a lender, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I can't tell you how many lenders just did refinance.
To get business, you didn't have to do a lot. To get an offer accepted, that's a different story.
It was definitely crazy. It was definitely crazy. Yeah, you pretty much just gave your unborn child to these people. Just to even get a home, and you're also going to pay over asking, $50K. I think I had one deal where we were at like $65K over asking.
You know what?
We still lost.
I think the most was 82. It was 82 in total over appraised value was the most expensive. It's freaking like what the? Are you
yeah?
But using that point, right? So go back to that conversation that lady last Friday was I told her, I was like, so if you think about it this way, if we just want to focus on interest rate, which I really don't like doing, but here's the thing. So if we can use this, I can use this math. So check this out. If you had to pay let's say you had to pay $300 more a month.
Yep.
For whatever, so let's say $350,000, okay, is about the average price of house here now, depending on where you're at. But I mean, overall, it's about $350,000 for Montgomery County. So let's say you're going to put an offer in for $350,000. Let's say your mortgage is just ballpark something.
Let's just say.
I mean, highball it doesn't.
Let's just say 2,700.
Okay, I was going to say 26. So I went too
26,
far.
27. Yeah.
So let's say it's $2,600 is going to be your payment, and you're like, okay, Roger. So now, if we kind of revert back 2 years ago, let's say your payment would have actually been closer to 18 or 19, probably.
Sure.
Would be probably pretty close to what it was then.
Yep.
So I get it, right? So we're talking $500. Let's call it $500 difference is what it is.
$500-$600. Yep.
So we'll say $500 more a month is what you're going to have to pay. Okay. So what if I told you, or what if I spun it this way to you? You can pay $30,000 to $80,000 more for a house.
Yep. Out of pocket,
because that's liquid. That's liquid cash.
You cannot finance.
You cannot finance. Yep. You can't. Like your grandmammy can give you a gift letter with a whole bunch of freaking birthday money rolled into one for the down the next 100 birthdays. Like I get that, but it's actual physical money.
Yes.
It's non-financeable, actual physical money.
Right.
So you're going to have to basically get off of let's call it 20, 30 grand. Let's call it 30 grand. All right, for round numbers. We'll say 30 grand. So what times 5 equals 30?
You put me on the spot. 1 times 5 equals 36.
It's 6. Okay, so
What time is that? We're not even that new
so
yet.
6, right? So check it out. If you paid $500 a month,
Yep.
how many months would it take you to equal 30 grand?
Yeah. I mean, it would take a hot minute. Well, and that's always been my talking point to a lot of people. I'm like, look, okay, so one, some people want their dream home as their first home, especially. And see, this goes for first-time home buyers, where I want this. I'm going to save up enough money. I'm going to get it when the rates are low. Then I'm going to buy. Mm-hmm. Okay, well let me spin something for you. Okay, your first car more than likely was not your dream car. Everybody started out at something.
That's actually a great point.
I
never used a car analogy. That's really good.
Well, no, but seriously, I promise you, I didn't drive what I had. Like, if I did, I either won the lottery or my parents were just like stupid rich, but they weren't. So, nobody buys their dream car right off the bat. Okay, unless you're just extremely fortunate or you're extremely hardworking, and then you just waited for a hot minute. But as a whole, you didn't get your dream car, so it's kind of the same concept with a house. You can't treat your first house, especially your first house, as a forever home, or it's got to check off all the boxes. It's got to be a stomping ground to get you to that next step. Like it's a stepping stone.
So I had a conversation this morning with somebody.
Right.
We were talking about it, and the whole concept was, it's like takes everything inside of me to not just be like, because they're same thing. They're like, we're talking a $475,000 house.
Right.
That's their first house. A $475,000 house is not a starter home. The starter home is the ugly house on the corner with 4 different colors of brick.
Right.
That's a starter home because that's something you can buy. Because here's the thing, right? Do you want to? Is it? Are you buying this house because it's a status, or are you buying a house because it's got 4 walls, a roof, AC, and you can plug a refrigerator in? That's what you should be looking for. Because here's the thing, right? So if we go back to the dawn of time, let's say 98% of all the rich people on the planet, they bought real property. And they didn't buy real property being a real estate that they can't really afford.
Sure.
Right? So also to include, you can buy a house that's going to cost you your $2,600 a month. But if you could really only afford 18, then why are we looking at 26? Because if you can scrape and pinch, and what I tell my buyers is this, if you have to do math twice to make the numbers work, that doesn't actually work.
Correct.
Does not work. You cannot afford it. So, and I'm one of the few people, he's one of the few people I really feel like if you actually broke down and got honest with us about some numbers, I'm going to be like, homie, this is not a good idea. Because the last thing I want you to do is make a decision that's going to be bad financially for you, because that's going to cause marital issues. That's going to cause, obviously financial issues. That's going to cause hatred against us because we apparently made you buy this house.
We put you in that position.
Yeah, we put you in this position, right? So it's not, but even though we didn't, but that's how it's going to come back at us.
Right.
So I would rather educate somebody and be like, look, man, hear me out.
Right.
Let's go buy the ugly one down the corner. Because if you're going to be here for 3 years, let's take military, for example, right? So I'm retired military. I get it. We're only here at a place for 3, maybe 5 years at most, and then we're bouncing out, right? I get it. So here's the thing. Let's buy something that can be an investment for you down the road. You buy a house, you live in it for 2-3 years, you buy it cheap enough, or you buy a cheap enough house, I should say, to where you, aren't house poor every month. You can afford to take family vacations and buy your kids toys and go out to dinner and enjoy life. Like that's the whole concept, is being able to enjoy life. So you want to put yourself in a position to where you can enjoy life. And then you leave because you got a PCS, because you're going to go be a drill sergeant, a recruiter. You're going to go to Fort Hood, hopefully not. Where else you got to go, right? So you leave, but then you buy it to a point to where your rate is still, the house is rentable, right? So you have a low enough payment to where it's rentable, so that you can continue. That they're going to pay that mortgage, they're going to pay that interest rate that you don't like, but they're going to build you your equity.
But then people are going to stop you and say, well, how can it be profitable now with the rates the way they are? But see, that's what we're talking about, is you buy something that you're comfortable with now, because the rates, when you'll get the opportunity to refinance at some point. Okay, it may be 6 months, it may be a year, maybe even 2 years, but at some point you'll have that opportunity to refinance. But what you can't take back is the equity you do lose by sitting on the sideline. That house that you were waiting for, that's $300,000. You wait another year. Well, I mean,
what the $350,000 at 5%, what's that, $17,500.
Yeah.
So instead of buying it today for $350,000, next year at 5%, it's 300, right? That's what I think it's 5%. Is $17,500. So that's now $167,500 for that house.
Yeah.
So it doesn't stop computing. Like
Right.
it's going to keep going and keep going and keep going
It's
and keep
called cost of
going.
waiting. We talk about that a lot with clients, and it is one of those things. Like, there is a sacrifice to waiting. Now, if you're just not if you're not able to buy right now, like, we're not. I promise you, we're not trying to beat
No, I
people up.
mean you got to do what's right. I mean,
This is really just a conversation that are people that can buy, but they are just so rate focused and so like heavy on the value of a home first, instead of just looking at the bigger picture, right? Because like you said, when you rent, it's 100%. Right, it's 100% interest. Like, you're not going to get anything back.
Well, and there's so many ways. To be honest, there's so many ways you can kind of cut down the rate a little bit in a sense.
Yeah.
So let's take. We'll do fun math, right? So there's a few builders in this town. They're offering like almost. Well, some of them are offering I think almost 15 grand.
15,
for
10, 15.
concessions, right?
Yep.
So let's say for fun math, we'll just do this. Let's say it doesn't really honestly matter the price of the house. What it is they're going to say, hey, look, we're going to give you $15K of concession towards your closing expenses and rate buy downs or whatever you want to do, right? So let's say that, okay, so let's say that you're good with your money. You've got some money in the bank that you can put towards some closing expenses, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say it's going to be a total of $12,000 for to close the loan completely.
Yep.
That's all this stuff included. So that builder then there's $3,000 left over. Correct?
Yep.
So let's say you sit down and you do the math a couple different ways. Okay, so if I just use this 12, and then I use this 3 to buy my rate down.
Yep.
What does that look like? Or you say, I'll tell you what, I'm going to spend $2,000 out of my own money towards my closing expenses, and I want to do $5,000 towards a rate buy down.
Sure.
You could kind of split it in different ways. Now, let's say, for example, that $2,000 you spent, let's say that saved you. Let's for fun math, let's say that it's $1,000 or $100 a month is what that $2,000 saves you, right?
Right.
So that $2,000 at $100 a month, you can recoup that decently quickly, right? So that's basically a year and a half. You're going to be able to recoup your money that you invested back into it, right?
Yep.
So that would be a positive investment,
100%.
right?
Yep.
So and then you take that $5,000 that they're going to give you, or that $3,000 or whatever that is, and you can dump that into the rate. Let's say that drops it by another $200 a month.
Sure.
Just fake numbers, but
Right.
it's the same concept.
Mm-hmm.
So now let's say you're saving $300 a month.
Right.
By spending only $2,000 of your own pocket.
Yep.
That actually makes sense because your ROI at that point is actually in the positive. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? So that would be a way to cut it down. So there are ways to do. I'm not saying you can do it every single time. It depends on a lot of freaking factors.
Yeah, and there's so many different, so many different factors, man. And and it really boils down to what your situation is, man. And like I said, listen, I love you. And I love a lot of agents I work with, man, but I promise you, man, there are some that, like, I wish I could just, like, stop, because, and look, at the end of the day, like, rate's important, but it's not everything. And I promise that, I tell a lot of people, there's an online company, we're not going to drop any names here, but online company where they're going to advertise a stupid low rate. And they've kind of gotten a little smarter in that aspect to where they advertise that, hey, it's only one discount point to get this rate. But then you see the asterisk. You click on that asterisk, it drops it down. Oh, it's also based on a 1.5% in origination. So essentially, in a vague nutshell, if it costs you one discount point and 1.5 in origination, you are essentially paying 2.5 discount points to get that rate. So I tell a lot of people. These companies are starting to pick up. They're trying to find ways to really get you to come in.
Right.
But always maths at the end. 100%. And that's why it's always just, you can't, I hate talking about the rates with people, man. Like, I really do. I tell people right now, this is not the kind of the market to really be caring much about your rate, because people who shop around for the lowest rate, and if you yourself put in a ton of money to get the lowest rate possible right now, In 6 months, if you refinance, that money is gone.
Well-
Like you wasted that money when you could have just stuck it out for 6 months, hoarded that money. Let's just say it was $6,000, hoarded that money, and now you're going to get a better rate after you refinance. People are like, "Oh, well, there's fees to refinance." Not every single transaction, like. Honestly, especially in this market, there should be enough margins there, hopefully, when the rates drop, to kind of get you at least a better rate than where you're at.
I mean, half the time it's like $1,200 at the end of the day.
Well, and it depends, because we talk about a lot of people where because especially like for VAs, right? Mm-hmm. Look, I mean, there's no appraisal. You look at no appraisal. You don't have to re-escrow because you just
that's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's literally
the only
more or less title expenses. What you're doing. So.
But even then, we tell people it's like just go. We'll close you out with the same title company we close you out with because they're going to give you a discount. Yeah. The whole rate conversation. If that's what, like, if you're scared, go to church. Okay, because like I'm telling you, man, like it is just one of those things where I'm just the whole rate thing, man. People, everybody's just so scared of it. So scared,
but that's why I mean. And again, it's not to. I don't even know how to really explain. It's not to like trick your mind to not looking at the rate. The rate's a thing. I get it.
Yeah, 100%.
But what Daniel's getting at, and what we've been trying to educate a lot of our buyers and our clients on is, who cares? Honestly, like seriously, who cares? Yeah. It's the monthly payment. That's all that. Because so here's the thing: if you got a bill in every month. And it was like, it's for your house, for your car, for whatever else. Yep. Are you like, man, wish I would have got a better interest rate? No. You're like, man, I wish my payments were lower, right? Like, nobody gives two craps about a damn interest rate. It's literally like, man, I wish my payments were lower. Well, okay, so let's figure that one out. What can we do to get payments lower?
Right. And it's funny because people talk about, I had a client, man. He was like, I used to do cars. I can do what you do. And I'm like, we're not going to go there, man. But, but a lot of people
that's not how that works.
I've had people say, you're just like a car salesman in the aspect of where you just ask me about my payment. But I'm like, okay, let me kind of spin this on you, okay? When you're paying 28% of interest on a car, it's a depreciating asset. Doesn't matter. So, yes, you are technically overpaying for a freaking vehicle. That's not going to make you money. Rather than, okay, instead of getting a 4%, I will take the 7%. Yes, my payments are going to be a little bit higher, but I'm not gonna lose money on this because I'm going to appreciate it.
It's an appreciation.
Yeah, and people are like,
not a depreciated asset.
And we talk about, it's like, you want to talk about paying all this interest. Well, I don't care if you have a freaking 2% or a 10%. For the first 3 or 4 years, man, it is heavy interest. I don't care what you do. I don't care what interest rate you get.
Well, and so the general, right? So the general math problem, if you will, behind the interest rate, and everybody this always comes out at some point. Yeah. Is I tell people, if you can afford, I like people to be able to basically be able to put another $100 a month towards somewhere between $50 and $100 a month towards their mortgage. Right. But towards principal.
Yep.
So you pay it, and then you call the next day and say, hey, look, or call the same day and say, hey, I want this $100 go towards principal. And if you do that, so the general rule of thumb, if you will, is if you can put an entire extra payment, right? So let's say for $1,200. So let's say your mortgage is $1,200. Mm-hmm. If you could, that's why I get $100 a month from. So let's say it's $1,200. If you were able to put $1,200 extra towards principal a year.
Yep. It can be spread out
for like 3 years. Yep. You're almost going to knock off almost 7 years of your loan. And the reason why I say 7 years is because it's all front-loaded interest.
Correct. Yep.
So all you're doing, so everything. So if you get, myself included, before I even got into this game, it was I bought my first house, and I'm like, and I go out there to go check my bill because my yearly statement's in there, and I'm like, I'm an adult now. I own a house. And, who let me buy a house? I don't know, but they did. And so I opened this thing up, and it's like, hey, you've paid $100. Not really $100, but it was really like, it was basically nothing.
Yep.
So they're like, hey, you've been paying for an entire year on this house, and congratulations, you paid $300 towards your bill. And I'm like, what?
Yep.
Because everything is going towards interest. Because again, the bank is going to get their money first. Yep. The lender's not a bank; it's the servicer. It's the bank who has your loan. They're going to get their interest, their money first. So if you understand that, then you can kind of calculate it the way forward better. Now, again, if you're going to keep the house for 5 or 10 years, try to put some extra money into it.
Right.
You'll knock that payment off more than you understand. It's called an amortization chart. If you guys want to Google it, like literally, and you can change it by a penny, and it'll change the entire thing for whatever the term of your loan is.
Yep.
And then there's different terms of your loan, right? So there's 15s, there's 20s, there's 30s. They don't do 84 months yet, like car dealerships yet, but maybe we'll get there one day. So, but there's different ways you can kind of make that work too, because if you're able to afford a higher payment, then maybe doing a 15-year loan might actually be better for you.
I mean, we have the clients, man. I'm not going to talk about them, but we had them.
Yeah.
I was kind of blown away because like I haven't done a 15-year since the 2s and 3s.
Yeah.
So it was my first time that opted to do 15-year in this kind of market. But it just goes to show you, you know, like people that are okay with understanding are not scared to buy real estate. And again, this is going to come off so salesy, but it's not. Like we're just trying to help you guys for your future investment, and that's what it boils down to. It's just literally what's your future investment. You know, how many people can say that you pay on a house instead of renting, you pay on it for 5 years, and make 30 grand, 40 grand, whatever it is. Like it's not. Okay, you can roll the dice in stocks. I mean, stocks are absolute trash right now. I've taken a hit, cried a little bit, and I'm still here. I'm still here. But
he's going to be crying just as soon as we're done. But
man, you know if they repo that truck out there, you know why. You know why.
I'll be the repo driver. Don't worry about it.
But no, I think the tidbit of this whole thing, man, was really just to kind of just let people understand why. It's really there's never a right or wrong time to buy real estate.
Well, I mean, and that's I've heard it 100 times, right? Yeah. It's the when's the right time to buy? The right time to buy is now. Yeah. And I know that sounds, and I heard the same thing 1,000 times before, you know.
Freaking car salesman.
Dude, I'm telling you, man. So I had here's a funny story for everybody. So I was in El Paso. So I had to do a little short stint in El Paso before I was able to release back to the wild, come back to Campbell before I retired. Anyways, so we get to El Paso, and I obviously not planning on staying there very long at all. Was just there literally for just a short period of time and was coming here. So I get there, and we rented a house. My wife and we rented a house, and right around the corner from the house, there was a house that went for sale like maybe, I don't know, a month or 2 months maybe after we got there. And I was like, I want to go check it out, because I'd rather buy a house and have another investment as a rental or something than rent if at all possible. Right. So anyways, we go and look at it, and we called, I got a hold of a realtor, and I was like, hey, can we come look at this house? So she meets us over there. We get a showing scheduled, all stuff. So she meets up, and we walk through the house. We're in the house for like maybe, I don't know, 5 or 8 minutes. She was crazy pushy, man, like weird pushy, a little short. Kind of, she's a weird gremlin looking person. Yeah, she was. Yeah, she was kind of stocky. But anyway, so we walked to the house. It wasn't anything special for the price, and kind of just, I don't know, like it just wasn't. We weren't feeling it. We weren't feeling it all. Right. So we leave, or we walk outside. The house, and we're by the lady's car, and she doesn't know we live right on the corner. We just walked over there, and she was like, "So what do you guys think?" And me and my wife were like, I don't really know. Like, we're just not really in love with it. She's like, well, look, because I think it'd been on the market. I think it was like that day or the day prior, whatever it was. Like, it had just come on the market. And she's like, look, if you're at all wanting to do this, you need to put an offer in right now, because this place is gonna fly. It's gonna go fast. And we're like, well, we're not the kind of people that are going to be in a rush or be persuaded to be, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like you guys, like I'm not going to be talked into anything. I would like to feel comfortable with my decisions, right? So we're trying to relay this to chick, and she kept going on and on. Well, you guys need to put an offer in. You need to put an offer in. You need to put an offer in. So let's fast forward, right? Like a year and a half or whatever it was before I left. That sucker was still for sale, and above, so they had one of the big giant like wooden signs that come up, like the big giant freaking L, with the sign hanging down. Well, and the rider on the very top of it said "Free cruise with purchase." So like ever since then, it's always the running joke between my wife. We're like, you better jump down. It's gonna go fast. Better jump down. So I mean, I don't know. That's but that goes back to the whole salesy thing. Like that's not at all what we're trying to do. My biggest goal, my major goal in this job, is not necessarily selling houses. That's not necessarily what I want to educate people to make good financial solid decisions.
Yeah, and that's what it is at the end of the day, man. Like It's just I see so many lenders and so many agents, man. It's just, and nothing to bash anybody, but it's just different styles, man. Like we're gonna be like down to earth, man. I mean, you see the beard, you see me, man. Like I mean, I'll dress up occasionally, but a lot of times, man, like we put our jeans on and our pants on just like you guys. I pinky promise. Like I dressed. You and I dressed very comfortably, and you know we sat in plenty of big open houses, man, and freaking jeans and t-shirts and boots. And we're just like, hey, this is us, you know, this is us. True. And it's just because, you know, I don't want to sell you on anything, man. We just want to educate you to make sure that, you know, if you are about to pull the trigger on this $500K house, are you okay with it? Like,
let's have a conversation. Make sure you're good with it, because the last thing we want is for you to be financially in an issue, right? Yeah. Or again, for me, it goes back to I want the repeats, right? Like I want your friends' referrals. I want you to call me again when you want to buy another one or you want to sell that one. I don't want to be that guy that you're like, this freaking dude. Yeah. You know, I never want to be that guy. Mm-hmm. And again, if I can get you into something that's going to be more beneficial for you and your family, right, whether it's financially, location, like whatever. I want to go the extra mile for you guys, because I'd rather you guys be happy about it. And nobody wants financial, issues within their relationships or their marriages or their family, because that's just going to cause a lot of undue stress and hardship, man. Like you don't want to deal with that. Yeah. It's just about being smart, and it's again, yes, being unrushed. Like, and that's the thing. Yeah, I got to sell houses to get paid. Cool story. Everybody knows that. Facts. Yep. We're commission based. Yep. Cool. Now that that's out of the way, you know what I mean? Like, let's talk about reality. Like, what do you guys want to do? What do you want? Do you need 6 months to prepare? Cool. So talk to the lender. Yep. See what it's going to take to get what you want. Let's build a plan. Let's figure out how we can build a plan from now till next year or whatever, to where we can close that gap and we can actually make it happen for you guys. If we don't know what the overall goal is, if we don't understand what the overall, objective is of and what the objective is, right, we can't really help. Like, I don't know what to do for you.
Yeah, and you know what? And honestly, sometimes it really does boil down to, man, like, I'll be fair though, man, the income versus like how much housing and affordability. Yeah. Affordability is at an all-time low for housing. Like, trust me, I get it. I see it. I got some. When people apply and they talk to me, it's just one of those things where I have some people on just different sides of the spectrum. I have people that make decent money, but I mean just debt up to the freaking lines, man. But then I got some people that don't make not even close to what this person's making, but get no debt, but they can find the house that they want. Yep. I've been people have yelled at me and got so upset with me, saying, "Why can't you approve me for this?" And I'm like, "Well, homie, you're making $10,000 and you got like $9,500 going out in debt, so you got $500."
We had a dude. I guess it'd be like almost 2 years ago, maybe over 2 years ago now. So he come in. He owns his own business. Makes crazy money, I'm sure he still does, but at the time he was making crazy money. And he had I want to say like 11 credit cards maxed out, right? Yep. So the dudes, and he had like 100 or 200. He had a lot of money in the bank too. Yeah. And he was like borderlining violent, irate. Of why he couldn't buy a certain house, because we showed him a house. We're trying to work through some stuff. We're talking about things, find a house online that he wanted to see, and we're like, cool. I need a pre-approval before I can just start showing you houses. And he was like, okay, not a problem. And he's just talking about all these things. I got all this money in the bank, and I do this, and I do this. Awesome, dude. Don't care. Call the lender, get me a piece of paper that says you can buy this bazillion-dollar house, and I'll go show it to you. But I gotta but you gotta be vetted before I can go do this, right? Yep. And so he's like, all right. So he calls this guy, and then nope, yep. Because his credit score is in the tank, because he's got 11 or 7 or it was a lot. It was a bunch of credit cards, but some of them were like $350 limits. Some are like $1,200 limits. Yep. But yeah, he's got all this money in the bank, and I'm like, but dude, and we talked to him, and he's pissed off, and I'm like, why didn't you get qualified? And so he started telling me all these things that Daniel said, and I'm like, so here's an idea: take the money out of the bank,
and
pay off the credit cards,
Yep.
give it 30 days,
Update
and
the
it
score.
should start updating a score.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and by the time we start shopping and you close, the score should at least update 2 or 3 times at that point to where we should be able to get you a decent rate. And if
Yeah.
you need to wait for 3 or 4 months after that, then we'll do that too, because
Yep.
it's going to be, again, in your best interest to
Correct.
wait
Yep.
and have your score get a little better. And he was like, "No, I'm not doing that. I'm not getting off my money." And I'm like, "Then you're not buying a house." Like I was like, "I don't understand where you're confused, man." Like I tell everybody, anybody who knows me or heard anything, is my famous quote, if you will, is I'm confused why you're confused. Because I'm telling you, just take the money, pay your bills off, and your credit score goes up.
I don't know,
Weird
man.
concept.
Maybe it's the mafia's money, man. I don't
Dude,
know.
he
I don't
wouldn't
know.
do it. It took him like 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
It took him a hot minute to like, he was like, "Fine, I'll pay this stuff off." And finally pays it off, and we were like, "Well, that was hard." You know what I mean? Like why?
Yeah.
Like, why would
Yeah.
you do that? You know?
Yeah.
So it's simple. It's weird, man. Like, we run into so many. Dude,
I mean, but hey, that's the beauty of this industry, man. We see it all, man. Like we get different people on different sides of the spectrum every single freaking day. Every day. And, everybody's story is different. It really is. Everybody's different. You'll never have one application be the exact same to the T no matter what. They can have the same credit score, they can have the same loan product, same purchase price, but guess what? There's going to be differences in between.
But it's always different.
Always
Somebody
different.
has a more expensive car. Somebody's got a child support. Somebody's
Or-
got, it's all these things, and none of them are necessarily bad. Like,
Right.
that's what we want to get at. It's and especially if it's like, so a lot of people, well, I guess a lot of people I'm running to right now, they have these they're pretty insane car payments. Like, some people, I ran into a guy the other day, had like a $1,400 a month truck payment. I was like, "Oh my Lord, dude, like, that's crazy."
House payment.
But here's literally a freaking house payment, bro.
Yeah.
And so, but here's the thing, and like I told him, I was like, "Look, dude, love you, man, but the decision's been made. Like, you can't. It is what it is, unless you can trade it in or give it back or drop it off with a note that said, 'I'm sorry, I changed my mind.' I don't know, like, whatever you got to do.
Yeah.
Like, the decision's already made. So
Correct.
going forward,
Yep.
what can we do to help you going forward? I can't change the past.
Can't change the past.
I cannot change the past.
I can't
can
give
only
you
affect forward.
Yeah, and I man. So I mean, yes, I have a hefty truck payment, man, but we're in a position where it's okay, But I see so many people, man, where like, hey, even if you make $90,000 a year, but you have a $1,200 car payment,
Yeah.
or you have I've seen some people, man, where I'm salary and I get X amount of dollars of bonus each year, but then you got a $1,500 car payment, you got like $20,000 credit card debt, you have.
So it's an equivalent of, so like when you run your own business, right?
Yep.
So I have what's known as a P&L, a profit and loss statement, right? So it might say on paper I make $3 bazillion a freaking month,
Yep.
right, or whatever. But that's not true, because technically 50% of whatever I make goes over here, and then whatever I've left, or maybe not 50%. Let's say 40% of it, as soon as I get this check, 40% of it goes over here, and then I'm left with this 60. And then, but technically I'm not left at 60 because 30% of that 60 actually goes over here.
Yep.
And then, so now I'm left with 30. And then 30% of that, actually 10% of it actually goes over here, and so I'm actually left with 20%.
Yep.
So it might, on a 10,000 foot view, be like, "Oh, he makes $1 bazillion a month," but I don't, because I have overhead costs, I have all these other things going on, I have taxes, so again, it's not we run into a lot of people that are like, "Man, I make blah 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 blah." I'm like, "Cool, dude. Like, awesome, good for you, proud of you."
Yep.
How are you managing your money?
Yeah.
How are you managing it?
Yep.
Because if you're mismanaging it, if you've got too many bills going out,
Yep.
then your buying power is going to go down immensely. Because again, like he's saying, you could make $300 a year or $300,000 a year,
Yep.
right? So that's an incredibly good living,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But again, if you have the $1,500 or $1,200 a month payment, plus you've got 4 credit cards that are all like basically maxed out, or they all are $400 a month or $300 a month. Okay, well, that's another $1,200 a month because you got 3 of them.
Yep.
So now we're up to $2,400 a month that you're paying out, and then you've got this and this and this and this. So really, you're only actually netting, if you will, let's say $2,000 a month.
Yep. Yep.
Because all that stuff gets taken away when he does when he puts you through the whole rigmarole to the whole process. When it comes out the bottom, it's like dude makes $2,000 a month.
Yep.
So what can you know what I mean? So then it's not really. It's because it's you put your priorities or your money in a different basket.
And I'm guilty. I'm just as guilty, man, because like, you know, I thought, you know, coming to this industry, I was like, man, I'm gonna get the baddest truck I can find, and I'm gonna do all sorts of stuff. And
He's got a pretty bad truck,
and I still hate to this day, I do, man. But you know, kind of looking back on it, like, would I have done things different? Sure. Would I have probably, you know, kind of waited it out a little bit and did a few extra things? Sure. But again, like you said, you can't change the past, and you just look at, you know, I'm able to help you guys to kind of look through a lens where, you know, you don't want to be again trapped into a payment that you're not comfortable with, and again, that's what it boils down to. This whole talking point was, what are you comfortable with? You know, I don't care, dude. I could give two hoots that you're approved for $800K, $900K. You may not want an $800-900K payment. You may, honestly, realistically, you may be better off doing a $200 or $300K payment, even though you make bukus of money. You know,
I would much rather have a $1,200-$1,500 payment than a freaking $4,600 payment.
Like buy me a freaking tiny home.
I got a shoebox. I'm gonna put a roof on it.
Now I'm about to go to Lowe's and get one of those sheds. You know?
One of them sheds.
Put it on like 5-acre property, man. All good.
That's awesome. Yeah.
But no, man. I think we're gonna continue this, and we'll just we'll make it every Wednesday, man.
And so you want to we're trying to shoot for Wednesdays, right?
Yeah, this is a little test run. So we'll be kind of playing some snippets. I think we're gonna maybe do a YouTube page where we're just gonna upload it, and then we can share little bits and clips and upload it to social media too.
So and the other side of it too is what we really like is basic question feedback, if you will.
Yep.
So if there's something you guys or you have even if you're other agents, whatever else, if you got clients that have questions, if you are a future buyer or seller and have questions, we want those pushed up to us, so at least we can address them. That way we're not up here just running our mouth saying the same, literally exact same things every week. Because to be honest, like a lot of the stuff, it doesn't really change too much. It's more, I guess, specific or specificity, right? So it needs to be pinpoint questions would be the way to really drive it forward. Because if you give us a topic, we can kind of hone in and really kind of dissect a little bit. Yeah, maybe it'll help everybody out a little more. And again, you're gonna have a question that 10 million other people are thinking that just aren't reaching out. And we're hoping that this gets out.
Well, yeah, and we don't have to say names or anything. We're just gonna read off a list and all that. You could ask him, does he get food in his beer? Sure, yes he does. I watched this man pull his beer Saturday night to take a bite of his food. I was like,
sometimes you just gotta tuck it in his shirt.
But yeah, man. So I think this is going to be pretty freaking cool. We'll be very consistent about it. And this is the podcast room is still in works. So obviously this is just temporary for the time being. But we're going to have some nice little chairs come in here, like a little table. And you can bring your coffee. I can maybe bring some whiskey if James allows it. He'll actually probably provide me the whiskey, believe it or not. So especially in this industry, we definitely need it. So, but yeah, man. I think this is going to be a good starting point, and we'll see where it goes from here.
Yeah, definitely super excited.
Cool.